Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. This week's video, we're going to be discussing some huge news related to Life is Strange. Not Life is Strange Reunion, even though that release is coming up very, very quickly. No, today we're going to be talking about the Life is Strange TV show and the recent reveal of who will be playing Max and Chloe in it. Now, in a previous video, I talked about the production of the show, how it's kind of been in development hell since it was initially announced, which is back around when the first game came out. I discussed the different groups that have come and gone on the project, who's currently on board, who's doing the music, which I still don't think Shawn Mendes is the best choice for the music, but okay. And my opinion back then is the same as it is now. I'm kind of concerned simply because of how long the show has been in development, how many different hands have been working on it over the years, and also with it simply being a choice-based game. There's so many different variations, and every fan, I feel like, has a somewhat different interpretation of the characters and what the theme is. I certainly know that my overview of the game and what I feel the themes and story arcs of these characters are meant to be or supposed to be are very different than even many people in my audience. I did a poll a while ago asking what you guys felt was the proper ending, asking what ending of the game you guys preferred, and I believe it was like a 62-38 split or something like that. I'll put it back up right here. But we're all part of one fan base in the end, and we all love the games because, you know, the choice is up to us, and that's why I think having a TV show has me a little concerned. But this casting actually makes me feel pretty optimistic about the performances that we'll get. Recently they announced that Tatum Grace Hopkins will be playing Max Caulfield, and Maisie Stella will be playing Chloe Price. We're going to look at each of these actors, a little bit of what they've done in the past, and why I think they'll be pretty good fits for these characters. This is going to be Tatum Grace Hopkins' first ever performance on a TV/streaming show. Previously, they had worked on stage and had even performed on Broadway. She's known for the Girls on Broadway, The Queen of Versailles, performed at the Emerson Colonial Theater, Newsies at the Lyric Theater of Oklahoma, and her one in front of the camera acting credit is for a short film called Meek. Now, before we get into why I think that her being on stage is actually going to aid her performance, there's one thing I have to mention. I watched a handful of interviews and TikToks with her speaking, and she sounds like Max. It sounds ridiculous to say, but genuinely, when I heard her voice, certain mannerisms and certain things reminded me so much of Hannah Tell and reminded me of Max.
Tatum Grace Hopkins, I play Jonquil. Jonquil is the niece of Jackie Siegel. She had a hard life growing up. She was estranged from her dad, Jackie's brother, and her mom can no longer take care of her, so she comes to live with the Siegels.
Shit! That came out wrong. My thoughts have been kind of...
It's cool. I'll never be able to hear drink you under the table the same way again.
What? It's a common turn of phrase. You're the one making it dirty. I plead innocent.
Oh, so you're just gonna tweet through it then?
I won't be speaking further without my lawyer present.
So already, I'm pretty sold on her being able to take on this character. But back to her performances on stage. Now, I've worked in the acting industry, I've worked in front of and behind the camera, I've also worked on stage. So I'm really no stranger to this realm. And that's why I think her being a stage actor coming to film is a really good thing. Something I've always heard, whether it's from actors, directors, casting directors, things like that. It's easier to make a very big actor, a very big performer, reel themselves in than it is to take a small performer and make them a big and bombastic character and make them give a big performance. The advice I've always gotten for auditions is go big. Show them what you've got. They can reel you in if they need to. And obviously being on stage, you don't have the up-close angle that you would normally have on a film set. You have to express all of your emotions in a large enough way that can reach the very back of the theater. And that's why I have no concerns about her making the jump from stage to screen. I think it would be very easy for the casting director of this show to fall into the trap of casting a really quiet, really sort of meek actor to play Max because, oh, that's how Max is. When really she has a wide range of emotions. Yes, she is a very anxious, a very reserved character, but there are still moments of so much emotion that come out of her. And you need an actor who can go big for those moments. And so I'm glad they went with someone who has experience having to project, having to be a big character on stage and project to the back of the theater for Max Caulfield. It shows me that they've got the range to handle this part, and I'm excited to see how they perform. Next, we're going to talk about Maisie Stella, who will be playing Chloe Price. For starters, Maisie is an accomplished musician, as well as an actor who has held down leading roles on television, as well as in feature films. Most notably, she was a series regular on the television show Nashville, and played a leading role in the movie My Old Ass. In that movie, she plays opposite Aubrey Plaza. I want to focus on the My Old Ass movie for a little bit, because I think it speaks volumes to the kind of depth that Maisie will bring to Chloe. For starters, as I mentioned, in the movie My Old Ass, Maisie plays opposite Aubrey Plaza. Basically, Maisie and her friends go into the woods, they do shrooms, and then Maisie sees herself from the future and has sort of a crisis of character and needs to figure out who she really is, and she has to rethink her life because she's being confronted by her older self. I know this term is way overused, but it's a coming-of-age story. This character is a deeply emotional one who goes through a lot over the course of the movie and finds herself, very typical coming-of-age story kind of stuff. And Maisie delivers an amazing performance, so much so that she was selected by the Critics' Choice Awards for Best Young Actress for this performance. The emotional depth that she has to go to in this movie, as well as the lighter parts and the comedy throughout it, show me she absolutely has the skill set to play a character who's as complicated and confusing at times as Chloe Price. Someone who's jokey and fun, but also extremely reckless and deeply, deeply hurt. Chloe's a character that's fairly immature at the start of the game. Not without reason, but she is immature. Chloe, over the course of the game, obviously grows as a person and changes, which ultimately culminates in her being extremely selfless when she asks Max to save the town. And I just think this movie is a great example of the kind of complicated performance that someone would have to turn in for Chloe Price. Kind of similar to how with Max, there would be a very easy path for typecasting her. You could take some actress who's very big and bombastic and just throw them in this role and be like, oh, they're funny, they'll say hella and do all the things that Chloe does, and then not really consider the deeper aspects of the character, and it would feel more like a caricature. But clearly in this case, they've gone with an actor who has a very strong ability to play both the light and the dark aspects of a character like this. So overall, I think both of them are very, very well cast in these parts. I'm very excited to see how they handle these performances and how they actually, work in front of the camera. I'm sure there've been chemistry tests between them to see if they, can play well off of each other and that sort of thing. Now, of course, the show itself, the writing, the way it's shot, things like that, that all remains to be seen. So at the very least, we will be getting some good performances. Tell me what you guys think of the casting in the comments below. Are you excited for these performers to take on these beloved characters in not just Life is Strange, but in gaming itself? Let me know what you guys think. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a good morning or evening or, whatever. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm so excited to be back in my home doing videos where the sound is not absolutely terrible. As I said in my channel update, I graduated college, I'm back, and I really want to put more time and effort into this channel, and things are kind of crazy for my life right now, but I'm just happy to be doing this. I haven't really talked about Life is Strange on the channel in a hot minute, and it works out perfectly because there's been some new casting revealed. So let's go over it. But before we begin, if you could leave a like on this video and maybe even subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. I also have some socials linked below. Previously, we talked about the Life is Strange show's casting of our lead characters, Max and Chloe, played by Maisie Stella and Tatum Grace Hopkins. I took a little deep dive into the previous work that they had done and talked about why I thought they were a good fit for these roles. We're going to be doing something similar with some of the new casting that we've gotten. We have Tom Cullen as Mark Jefferson, Leisha Haley as Joyce Price, Raul Castillo as David Madsen, and Owen Teague as Frank. The first actor we'll talk about is Leisha Haley as Joyce Price. When I saw the announcement for these actors, they had a sort of side-by-side photo for each of them on the post that I saw. And as I scrolled through with my friends, we kind of went, yeah, I see it, yeah, I see it. And then when it came to her and Joyce, we were like, oh, totally, absolutely. Leisha Haley is most known for her work on The L Word and its follow-up, The L Word Q Generation, I think it was called. Generation Q. The L Word Generation Q. Now, for those of you who are unaware, the L Word, both series focus on LGBTQ characters, which obviously Life is Strange, the entire series is full of them, and so to have someone who has experience in shows that deal with representing those kinds of characters, I think is a great thing. I think the most interesting thing about this actress is how she first came into the public spotlight. It was part as a musical duo called The Murmurs, and she's continued to do music even, recently. Overall, I think Leisha is a great fit for Joyce. I think she's a talented actress who is accomplished, as well as an accomplished musician. And once again, her work with things centered around the LGBTQ is fantastic, especially for this kind of show. Next up is Raul Castillo, who will be playing David Mattson. The first thing about Raul that I noticed is he's 48 years old. He's a very young looking 48. Now, maybe that's just the headshot that they used, but when I saw him, I was like, I mean, he has the, the very masculine, strong jawline kind of look to him that you would expect from someone playing David. But I was a little like, he looks a little young to be David. But then I saw he's 48. So, I mean, I'm sure, once again, makeup plays a role. The way that they style him will play a role. So I was just a little surprised at that at first. He's worked on shows like Americano, Cold Weather, as well as an HBO series called Looking, which, as far as I understand, also got a movie spin-off or movie continuation. I think the most interesting thing about Raul is when you look him up, they also mention that he's a playwright. I think it's important for actors to understand, they don't need to be writers, but I think it's important for them to understand the process of writing and the process of these characters, because really acting is a collaborative process. The writer has a say, the director has a say, the actor has a say, and they all have to kind of meet in the middle to find this character. And David is a very complicated character. I know he's kind of one-dimensional at points, but you see that there's a different side to him. You also see how he deals with the fallout of his actions in Life is Strange 2. And it just adds another layer to him. So I think having an actor with experience writing, being able to collaborate and sort of peel back those different layers of David. I'm not saying he needs to be a super sympathetic character, but we just need to see enough to understand why he is the way he is, to an extent. We kind of see that in the first game, and it's something I imagine they'll expand on. So that's personally why I'm excited for him. I think he definitely looks the part. I think I can say that for most of these people, that they kind of look the part, but I'll do like an overview at the end. So Owen Teague is going to be playing Frank Bowers, and Owen's my guy. I've mentioned on this channel before that I enjoy the Planet of the Apes movies, and I also really enjoyed Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which Owen stars in as Noah. Now, this might be my bias, but I think working on the Planet of the Apes is a really good sign for an actor. And I know that sounds silly, but whether you are an ape doing mocap, whether you are a human having to interact with a lot of these, fully CG, stuff on tennis sticks saying, yeah, that's a gorilla right there, react to it. I think no matter what, it requires a special kind of actor with a special kind of processing to do that and do it effectively. I think he gave a great performance in Planet of the Apes as Noah. I think that bodes well for the performance we will get out of him as Frank, because he was able to act well and make you care about him when he was, a CGI chimpanzee reacting to nothing. He was able to give that kind of performance. And so I can only imagine what he'll do when he has these more intense scenes with actual, with more actors to actually bounce off of, real things to actually bounce off of. My only thing with him is that when I saw that it was him playing Frank, I was excited, but I was also, while I have only seen him play leading man type characters or main characters that are very sympathetic, he has played antagonists in a couple of movies. For example, he actually came to prominence because of his performance as Patrick in It and It Chapter 2. So clearly he's got a mean streak in him that he can tap into for Frank. And once again, makeup is going to go a long way. I've only ever seen him really clean shaven and as that leading man figure, more stereotypically handsome, that kind of thing. So to see him gruffed up for the role, I have no doubt in his performance. I'm just curious how they'll go about with costuming. Now finally, we have Tom Cullen as Mark Jefferson. right off the bat, he looks the part. He looks great for it, at least in the headshots that I've seen. There's minimal work that they would need to do in terms of styling him to make him really look the part. Tom is actually a Welsh actor, and he's done shows like Downton Abbey as well as Nightfall. I think the other big thing about him is that he has a directing background, which, as I said, I think that helps when an actor at least understands or at least has researched the creative process for writers and directors. I think it makes him a better collaborator. And for a character like Jefferson, who, if he's played the wrong way, he could come off as really cheesy and not as sinister. I could see someone reading the lines that we get in the game and then it coming off as like kind of cringy or cheesy if they don't, do it the right way, or if, the director and the writers and the actors are not on the same page about the delivery. So that once again gives me confidence in him. While most of these actors have won some awards, I want to take a minute to focus on Tom Cullen's award, simply because I think Jefferson is a difficult character to handle, like I just mentioned. So he's won, in 2011, he won Most Promising Newcomer at the British Independent Film Awards. He's won Best Actor at the Nashville Film Festival. And the one that I believe carries the most weight is he won a SAG award for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Drama Series for Downton Abbey. And while that's not like Best Actor for SAG or that kind of thing, I think the Screen Actors Guild Awards carry a little more weight in my mind because, it's actors on actors. It's not like the Oscars where it's, these mysterious people pulling the strings. Maybe that's just me, maybe that's my personal bias coming through, but... So now the overall. While I have had concerns about the show, mostly being its writing, the music production, things like that, stuff that I've gone over in previous videos, the one thing that I think has been consistently really solid is this casting. From our lead players in Chloe and Max to even some of these supporting characters, I think, number one, at the very least visually, all of them look really good and look the part. Of course, I mentioned Owen being a little, not skeptical, but, I personally have never seen him play a more gruff role like that, but I have no doubts in his talent because I've seen him, his range. And obviously that is a makeup and hair thing, and, even small little changes, small little details can go a long way in making someone look the part a little more. I'm going off of headshots and things like that from other movies where they had completely different intentions, so I think the looks, for the most part, I'm really sold on these actors visually as these characters. I think also the choice to have actors who have backgrounds in LGBTQ media, as well as actors who have experience writing, experience directing, I think is really important because it helps with the collaboration, it helps to make the characters feel a little more well-rounded, because Life is Strange does have cringy dialogue, so I feel like on a dry read of this script, no matter how good it is, it's gonna be awkward. So I think having people who are good collaborators is such an important thing. I also really appreciate the choice to cast people who are relatively unknown. I say relatively because it's not like these people are nobodies. They have had successful careers, whether it's in music, whether it's in film and television, they've done a lot, but they aren't A-listers, we don't have Chris Pratt playing Max Caulfield. I think it's a very conscious choice because Life is Strange has a very quaint atmosphere. It's a small town, kind of misty, and I think having an A-list star in the mix would really kind of throw you for a loop and take me out of the experience. So I think the conscious choice to pick people who aren't someone that everyone would know, I think it's a great decision and it's something I appreciate. So overall, I'm very optimistic about the casting and performances. I think if this show doesn't end up being amazing, which I want to be open-minded with it, I want it to be good, but I think if it is kind of stumbling, it's certainly not going to be the actor's fault. And most times it never really is. Even in The Last of Us Season 2, while I believe that season really, really stinks, it is not the actors' faults. The actors are doing the best that they can, and I believe they've assembled a very solid group of actors so far. So I'm excited to get more news about the show. I'm excited to see who else they cast. So I'm just overall, this is an exciting time because, we get the little updates here and there. So thank you guys so much for watching. What do you guys think of the casting? What do you think of these actors? Have you seen them in anything before? So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a good morning or evening or, whatever. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. This week we'll hopefully be wrapping up our casting announcements for Life is Strange. I feel like every time I finally decide to cover, whatever announcement they've put out, who's playing who, I put together a video, I release it, and then all of a sudden another article drops. I think with the last one, it was literally the same day that I put out the new casting video, only to find out very shortly after I had released it, they had announced even more casting. So hopefully my luck doesn't continue with this one. We'll just go down the line, discuss some of the previous work they've done, the character they're playing, and I'll give my 2 cents about it. We're gonna start off with Billy Barat, who will be playing Nathan Prescott. I'm so sorry to the one commenter who said that I should play Nathan. I didn't get it. I tried my best. All jokes aside, Billy is an actor who I was not familiar with going in. At least I didn't think I was until I looked at some of his credits. He had done a lot of work as a child and is only about 19 years old. And that got me thinking about the ages of the actors, because it's not something I had really thought about until seeing, whoa, this guy's like 19 years old and he looks pretty young. Well, how are they casting the other characters? Are they also around the same ages? And they are. Tatum Grace Hopkins is 21 and Maisie Stella is 22, so they're all within that early 20s to late teens range, which I'm thankful about. I think it's very jarring in shows and movies when you see someone who's clearly in their 30s pretending to be a high schooler. He's known for films like Bring Her Back, and he's also the youngest person ever to win Best Actor at the Emmys at the age of 13 for the television film Responsible Child, which is just like, that's incredible. Because it's not like Best Child Actor, Best Supporting Actor, it's just Best Actor, period. So that's very, very impressive. As far as looks goes, I think that he has a certain look in his eyes that's really good for Nathan. I could really see him playing some of those scenes where he's kind of out of his mind very well and just giving these very sharp looks. Of course, costuming will, carry a lot in terms of these actors resembling their characters, so I'm not too concerned about the looks overall. I've said that in the previous videos as well. Next up is Emily Carey. They will be playing Victoria Chase. This isn't to discredit Emily. They also have done a lot of work since they were a child. For example, they've played younger versions of quite a few characters like Diana in Wonder Woman, as well as Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. But hey, I mean, if you're gonna be playing just the younger version of a character, I'd be happy it's characters like that who are super iconic. They also have a role in House of the Dragon, which is a show that admittedly I haven't really watched. I'm not a big Game of Thrones guy as much as I love fantasy stories like Lord of the Rings and things like that, but I've heard fantastic things about it. I think Victoria is a character that can be overlooked in terms of the depth that may be required to play her, simply because she is a stereotype. She's a catty high school girl who's kind of insecure, and I hope that Emily's able to bring a certain level of depth to the character, and I have no doubt that they will be able to. This next one was a bit of a shock for me when I initially saw the listing. When I saw that photo on the top of the article, this actor stuck out to me, and I realized why, and it's because I actually knew them. I'm talking about Esther McGregor, daughter of Ewan McGregor, or, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
She's experimented with modeling, music, as well as acting. She's kind of dabbled in each of it, and I guess it helps when you have two parents who are both in the entertainment industry. I actually knew her from a brief cameo she had in the Kenobi series. If I recall correctly, I think she tries to sell Kenobi like a death stick or like drugs or something, which I'm sure was a fun scene for her to do with her father. She'll be playing Rachel Amber, which I think the fact that we're getting a Rachel Amber casting announcement is really interesting. I say that because Rachel is a character that I imagine will have very few, if any, lines in Life is Strange. She's obviously not present during the first game. This could be showing that they want to set up possibly exploring Before the Storm and doing a season of that or something along those lines. I think the more realistic option is that we are going to see Before the Storm scenes, not the whole thing, but certain scenes from Before the Storm incorporated into the show version of Life is Strange. Because Before the Storm, it fleshes out so much about Rachel, it fleshes out so much about Nathan, as well as Chloe, and her relationship with her father and things like that. All things that are very, very important to Life is Strange 1. Not that you need to play Life is Strange Before the Storm to understand Life is Strange 1. In fact, I would say for most people, it's better to go 1 then Before the Storm. But I will say, I think if they can add it in a interesting and organic way, possibly through flashbacks, or they could also do something similar to the Last of Us TV show, which I know I've made my feelings about Season 2 abundantly clear, but I'm referring to Season 1, how they had a couple of episodes, and then they had that sort of spin-off episode with Bill and Frank, and they had that, it was basically a flashback, and it showed their life and their relationship and things like that. And while some people feel that the episode was a little slow or that it didn't contribute much, it did contribute to the themes of what Joel was learning by taking care of Ellie. I could see them doing something very similar where you have a couple of episodes, they find Rachel's body, and then the next episode, at least the majority of it, is a flashback showing the relationship between Chloe and Rachel. Maybe I'm going a little, too big here. I don't really know. Season 2 of The Last of Us did something similar where we got the growing up montage of Ellie for an episode about... I don't really remember that season. That was the best episode of that season. I know this is completely off topic, but I just want to say... And you know why it's the best episode of that season? It's because Neil Druckmann was actually involved with that episode. He was hardly involved with the rest of that season, and that's why it's a disaster. Because the showrunner... Side tangent over. To summarize, I think the inclusion of a casting of Rachel Amber tells me that we will be seeing sequences from Before the Storm worked into this season. Okay, I'm about to butcher this name for this next actor. I'm so sorry if you stumble upon my channel because you're trying to do background research on your character and you see me completely butchering your name. I'm so sorry in advance. Fali Rakoto Havana. I'm so sorry. He will be playing Warren Graham. He's an actor I wasn't too familiar with, and I can say that for a good chunk of this cast overall, including the next actor that we'll discuss. But I think that's a good thing. As I said in my previous casting video, I think it's great to include lesser known actors to help the characters feel more real. I feel like it could be a bit jarring if, we have this very moody kind of town and there's this mystery and it's meant to be teenagers in high school. And then I look over and Mr. Jefferson is played by Chris Pratt. Nothing against Chris Pratt as an actor, but I just mean in terms of, keeping the atmosphere, the vibe a little bit. Now, some of you also pointed out that the choice of actors is likely a budgeting thing, and while that's true, sometimes you'll have bigger actors come into productions, and it's a give and take. The production gets to sort of leech off of their social media following as essentially free marketing, and then the actor gets paid and they get more work. So I like the decision that even our leading characters aren't people who are very well known outside of their circles. Like, if you were a fan already of these actors, you know who they are. If you've seen Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn, is that called Ricky, Nicky, Dickie, and Dawn, which the actor who plays Warren was in for a time, then you probably already know him. I'm sorry, I just saw it on his IMDb, and I thought it was funny that a former Disney Channel actor will be in the Life is Strange show, which is great. I mean, I've done commercials, I've done acting. There's like a 1% chance that you guys may have seen me from somewhere else before I started doing this. So, I mean, hey, we all have different paths, and honestly, I think it's more of a fun fact, a fun, silly fact, than anything, embarrassing. I think he's also got a sweet look to him. I know that sounds strange to say, but I mean that he has a nice face. He looks like a nice guy. And that's kind of the look you want for Warren, someone who's a little softer, someone who is cute, not like ultra masculine, whatever. You want someone who's kind of cute looking, because that's how Warren's described, that's kind of how he looks. So I think he looks good for the character. Finally, we have Mia Isaac, who will be playing Kate Marsh. I actually recently did a deep dive video on Kate Marsh because of this casting, and so if you want to check that out, please do. Mia had a leading role in The Grey Matter, and has also been in things like The Perfect Couple and Don't Make Me Go. Now here's the thing. With these last two actors who were chosen, there has been a little bit of a reaction from certain people about the casting choice. There are some people out there who are angry and upset for the fact that these actors don't look exactly like their video game counterparts, and that they've cast actors who have darker skin for these characters who in the game are white. While actors looking like their source material counterparts is a nice thing that can happen, it shouldn't be the top priority of a casting director. Your top priority should be casting an actor who's going to be good in the role. The looks alone shouldn't be the end-all be-all. Now, that being said, I think the only time where something like that does truly matter is if their race or a certain physical attribute of theirs plays an important role in the story. If their story bullies around, I don't know, being picked on because they're the only minority within their school, you wouldn't cast someone who is white to play that role because it's integral to that story. I think a non-racial example of this would be a character like Abby from The Last of Us. Her physical stature plays an important role in her story. It's used as a visual tool to tell you who she is, how obsessed she is with getting revenge, and then later on in the game, you see how she's lost that mask because of the things that she's been through and what she sacrificed in order to get that revenge. It plays an important role in her story. So the decision to cast an actress who has a more feminine, slimmer build doesn't make sense in my eyes because of the importance of this character's look to the story. And that brings me back to Kate Marsh and Warren Graham. Their races don't play any part in their stories. I've seen some argue that Kate's religious background is specifically about the white Christian experience, which that's just simply not the case. Anyone can be a Catholic. Anyone can be a Baptist. There is nothing in her story that is explicitly related to Kate Marsh being white. Now, if maybe there was some line about her liking a boy who wasn't the same race as her and her family expressing some sort of disapproval, then it's part of her story. But that's just simply not the case. The important thing about her religion in the story is simply that her family is extremely religious and very strict and very judgmental. It has nothing to do with how she looks. And that goes for Warren as well. His story has nothing to do with his race, so there is no issue with having him be played by an actor of a different race. I just think this discourse is... it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Because our main characters, such as Max, Chloe, Rachel, Mr. Jefferson, all look very, very good and very accurate to their game counterparts. It's the main cast that looks like the game, so why are you complaining about some of the side characters? So it seems like they're just choosing to get mad over this, and I think it's ridiculous. At the end of the day, the race of these characters just doesn't matter because it's not integral to the story. Period. This kind of discourse has just annoyed me, especially seeing it within Life is Strange. To be fair, Life is Strange as a fandom has had issues with characters of different races as well as other things. I could get into it, especially about Life is Strange 2. I made a video talking about the franchise, and I comment on how the fan base wasn't really open to a different kind of lead character there. So all that to say, I want all of these actors to succeed. A lot of the times, when a production goes south, it's not the actor's fault. I'm sure there are examples where it is, but in a case like this, if this show doesn't turn out to be great, it's not going to be the actor's fault. It's going to be the writers, it's going to be the directors, it's going to be somebody else. Actors are brought in and they're given what the writers and directors have produced for them and plopped into their scenes, and they do the best they can with what they're given. So I really hope they succeed, and I really hope they're all able to shine in their roles, and I'm very excited to see these different takes on these characters. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, if you could subscribe or like the video, I'd really appreciate that. I've been trying to up my editing game in these last couple of videos, because, you know, I have a lot more time on my hands now that I've graduated. And so focusing on YouTube, adding production value is a really important thing to me. So, what do you guys think of these casting decisions? Do you have any opinions? Do you know these actors from anything else? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope you have a good morning or evening or, whatever.